Don't assume. When you get down to it and you start talking to the people that live in those communities, it may look totally different. I know that we want to create all these programs, we want to do all this relief planning and stuff, but go out to the communities, walk the communities, talk to the people in there. Don't be afraid, they're good people.
So really listen.
Listen.
Take time for the relationship.
Right.
Move beyond the cultural categories that we're herded into through different economic and political tribalism. Charlie, what would you add to that?
I think for me, there's a lot of these issues that are hidden in plain sight. We've been trained to think and see what we've been trained to think and see. And so nothing in the problems have changed since I moved. I just changed. I was able to see things differently and understand things differently. And so too often Jesus, he prays that they would have eyes to see and ears to hear. That what you think right now and what you know right now, that you might be willing to hold open-handed. To maybe see and understand that there is a system that is racially biased or socioeconomically biased, and to understand that in our city, my friends are getting pulled over for not turning a turn signal on into their driveway and a gun's being pulled on them, that my friends are traveling through Texas and having to pick what cities they stop in because of the racism that still exists in our state. And this can become a political thing, or people think this or do that, but there's a reality to it that I've experienced that I would have not believed prior. And so I think to put us in positions, like Olga said, to learn and not always think that we have the answers, to be the students and not always feel like we need to be the teachers, to really approach it with humility, that man, there is so much to be gained in the body from the left hand and the right hand, and if we do that together and learn together in unity, that's when people will start to see the church that I think God had intended us to be all along.
Thank you, Charlie. Michelle, what would you add?
Right, and so in history, public policy, racism, and institutional factors certainly drive and continue to perpetuate poverty in our country. I know that's probably, when we take the time to learn how we got here, we recognize that a lot of the issues that we are seeking to address through our work are manufactured. They are man-made. They did not happen out of nowhere. They were not spontaneous. And in many ways, everything from our individual to our emotional, our spiritual, political decisions that we're making every single day continue to perpetuate, and unless you're intentionally and are often not challenging what the situation that we have at hand. And so we all have a role in that, and we all have forces that have gotten to where we got to. I know Charlie here talks about reflecting on his own privilege and how that leads him to lead and work in a different way. Have we all done the work to understand all the different ways that have led us to any levels of success that we experience now, and how other people's lack of those same experiences or opportunities help them or keep them from landing in the same place of prosperity that some of us experience. And so it has everything to do with what we do. I felt really challenged starting to dive into these questions that you sent yesterday, and I went back to things that I had forgotten. A lot of us are familiar with Martin Luther King. Many of us know that almost right before he died, he was working on a poor people's campaign. And a lot of what the philosophies and the guidelines, and he actually called it kind of spiritual guidelines that he attached to that work, had focused on addressing the root causes and the systemic and institutional factors that lead people to poverty, and how that was intricately connected to the civil rights movement, but particularly talked about this concept of realizing the beloved community and what that meant. What did he mean when he said beloved community? And from what I was really refreshing myself and learning from revisiting those texts and where he was going with that, was that the beloved community is a place where all of our humanity is recognized, where we link arms with those who are different or poor or not living the same lives that we are, and we create solutions together, not for, not to, not on behalf, but together. The beloved community is grounded in agape love, which has unconditional, universal love for everyone, including the people that are the perpetrators of oppression. And it is tied around this concept of my liberation is bound in yours. If you're not free, if you're tied to that funding cycle and you're doing it in a way that's keeping me from, realizing my potential, then until I help you and you are free from that mentality, I am not free. And how are we all linked together if we understood that my liberation spiritually and as a human being is bound with your liberation, even if I don't know you? How does that inspire or invite us to work differently? And so beloved community becomes this ideal community where we operate with that agape love that allows us to see each other's humanities and fight for each other's humanity. And that means that some of us have to let go of some of the things that we have. It means that we have to leave our safe communities and move into an unsafe community, because it allows us to link arms better and to link arms more effectively. It means that around that time, and I feel this as a mother of two, that I'm deciding where I'm going to live so my kid can have a good education, that I don't do that at the cost of that other school district that I'm gonna go ahead and pretend doesn't exist. I'm gonna focus on the top 5. It means recognizing that me moving into that school district, as SAISD and some of our other school districts are inviting us to do, allow us to link arms with the families that are struggling to end meets, and allows all of us who have more time and more resources to help uplift those school districts, and over time perform better, are able to do that work. It allows us to stop self-isolating ourselves and seeing ourselves as integrated with those who are lacking in our communities, because their liberation is tied with ours. And that type of self-transformation and those type of changes in self-choice are the ones that lead to structural transformation. And that's what makes beloved community.
Anybody else feel like we should close in prayer?
That's good.
It's a perfect segue. We are going to talk about children and youth in our next panel, but at this time, we want to have some table time. You will see some questions behind. Please turn and face your table. We're going to give you 8 to 10 minutes to talk about what it means to be a beloved community that locks arms together, that we can seek to work with our neighbors in bringing about the kingdom of Christ in our city. So please take time to talk around tables. We have no designated leaders, but you have questions, and you've got 8 minutes to do so.